It's Monday Night Football between the Denver Broncos and the Seattle Seahawks. We break down the game, give you our best bet, and it all starts right now. Hey guys, it's Matt from GrandstandBettors.com, and we kick off Monday Night Football with an intriguing matchup between the Denver Broncos and Seattle Seahawks. Before we get to that pick and prediction, just a reminder to hit that subscribe button for all our free picks, predictions, and contests throughout the NFL season. And while you're at it, smash that like button if you are ready for some Monday Night Football. So without further ado, let's dive in to the Denver Broncos and Seattle Seahawks matchup. And the Broncos are 6.5-point favorites here with the over-under for this game set at 44.5. Now the Broncos, they had a lot of upside last year, and they've capped off things with the offseason addition of Russell Wilson. They have also a very good bunch of quick wide receivers in Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, and Courtland Sutton, which Russell Wilson should have no problem throwing to all season long. Along with their receiving core, they also have a great two-pronged rushing attack led by Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon. They also have the pieces for a very solid unit on that offensive line for a big rushing year, and they should have a big uptick in their offensive stats because, like we mentioned, Russell Wilson is going to be leading the helm instead of Drew Lock. Now, one area of concern might be at their depth. They only have one tight end that is only played in a few games. He has played in 18 games in his professional career, only 44 receptions for 451 yards. Now, this team last year we saw, they are prone to injury. So if they do get injured here, it is going to be a long season as they just don't have the depth that they need to have. Most likely, though, we're going to see a lot of handoffs and screen passes in this game and throughout the season to Williams and Gordon. Now, on top of all that young talent that they have on offense, the Broncos actually had a very solid defense last year. They ranked 8th in yards given up per game, 8th in passing defense, and 15th in rushing defense. They did struggle a bit at forcing turnovers, though, as they ended up 23rd in the league with only 19 takeaways all season long, but they did pick up 6 defensive players in this draft to end up giving them some more depth in those positions. Now, that could be one of the most underrated defenses in the NFL this season, and it is going to be a tough task for the Seahawks in Week 1, in our opinion. Now, the Seahawks, on the other hand, they are in the exact opposite situation as the Broncos. After 3 consecutive seasons with double-digit wins, they only won 7 games last year, and really, it hasn't gotten better after that. They lost Wilson, obviously, to the Broncos, and Bobby Wagner in free agency, and then Chris Carson ended up retiring in the offseason, leaving a huge hole in their running game. They are in a major rebuild mode right now, and the first sign of that is their complacency with Geno Smith and Drew Lock leading them at quarterback this season. Both these guys are below average quarterbacks in the league right now, and the Seahawks were planning to still compete for the playoffs or division this season. They would have tried a little bit harder to replace Wilson in the offseason. Now, whatever the situation is in their front office, the fact is this team's going to struggle offensively this year. They have a relatively brand new running back now behind an offensive line that struggles. And even though DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett are still on this offensive unit, both are going to struggle with quarterbacks averaging less than a 60% completion percentage over their careers. That is going to be an issue if they can't get them the ball. Now, on the defensive side of things, the Seahawks, as we mentioned, lost Wagner in free agency and put up some of the worst numbers in the league last year. They were 31st in pass defense, 17th in run defense, and gave up 21.5 points per game. They only had 34 sacks all season, and when relatively no major improvements to their defensive line happened in the offseason, their secondary, it's going to have a hard time as well getting to the opposing quarterback, and that is just going to cause them to give up yardage down the field. Now, with their ex-quarterback, Russell Wilson, coming to town for Week 1, who has scrimmaged against them for the past 10-plus seasons and knows this unit very well, it's going to be a long opening game for this defense, in our opinion, here in Week 1 for the Seahawks. So what is our best bet for Monday Night Football? Well, we've kind of alluded to this pretty easily thus far. Well, we're sure that the Seahawks, in their minds, would love to beat Russell Wilson here in game number 1 of the season. Kind of like how the Baker Mayfield wanted to beat the Browns, but how did that go? Not very good. The Broncos defense, though, is on its way up, while the Seahawks defense has lost some huge pieces in the past few seasons and are coming off one of the worst seasons for them statistically. When you compare these two offenses as well, the Seahawks do have that edge at wide receiver, but with Smith's inconsistency at getting them the ball and matched up with a very good Denver secondary, we have a hard time seeing the Seahawks putting up over 20 points in this matchup. It might be close at first in this one, as both teams are, relatively new here in week 1 of the season. But the only reason this spread is lower than a touchdown, in our opinion, is because Seattle is playing at home, and maybe a little bit of that backstory between these two teams. Neither of those, though, in our opinion, should affect the outcome of this game, as the Broncos are the much better team in this matchup. So, with our first Monday Night Football pick of the season, we're going to take the Denver Broncos to cover the 6.5 points over the Seattle Seahawks. Now, did you know that you can get all of our NFL and NCAA plays over at our Patreon page? Check out Patreon, Grandstand Bettors. That's what you search for. The link is below in the description, and make sure you join our community this fall and win at NFL and college football betting. In the meantime, though, sit back, relax, enjoy the first Monday Night Football matchup of the season, and we'll actually see you live for the game at 8:15.